Nobody told Megan that two 180-pound St. Bernards would have opinions about the television remote. She found this out on day 4. Baxter had taken it sometime between breakfast and noon, carried it to his bed, and placed it underneath his left paw with the calm authority of someone who had decided the matter was settled. When Megan tried to retrieve it, he opened one eye, looked at her, and closed it again. That was the moment she understood. This house had new management, and the management weighed 360 pounds combined and had absolutely no interest in negotiating. Megan had adopted Baxter and Finn 2 years before her daughter was born. Baxter was the larger one, 183 pounds, slow-moving, deeply opinionated, with a face that managed to look both ancient and mischievous at the same time. Finn was 177 pounds, quieter, more watchful, the kind of dog who said nothing but missed nothing either. Together, they had turned Megan's house into something that felt, depending on the day, like a very comfortable zoo. She had been warned, of course. Her mother visited once and spent the entire weekend perched on the edge of the couch because both dogs had claimed the cushions and showed no intention of moving. Her best friend Rachel refused to babysit unless the dogs were in another room. Her coworkers asked regularly why she had done this to herself. Megan never had a good answer, just that Baxter and Finn were hers and she was theirs, and that was the entirety of the arrangement. When she got pregnant, the comments started again, louder this time. Her mother called the week after the ultrasound. "Megan, those dogs are enormous. You cannot have a newborn in that house with 2 St. Bernards. It isn't safe." Rachel texted, "Have you thought about rehoming them temporarily, just until the baby is older?" Megan read every message, responded politely, and then she sat down on the living room floor between Baxter and Finn and thought about the past 2 years, about the morning she had gotten terrible news from a doctor and hadn't been able to get off the bathroom floor for an hour, and Finn had lain down outside the door and stayed there until she came out. About the night her car broke down in the rain, and when she finally got back, Baxter had been sitting at the front window, and the expression on his face when she walked in was the closest thing she had ever seen on a dog. She wasn't rehoming anyone. The day she brought baby Nora home, her husband Tom held both dogs back while Megan came through the door, not out of fear, but because he wanted to control the pace. Baxter waited approximately 4 seconds before making his feelings about being held back abundantly clear. A low sound, not aggressive, just impatient. Tom let go. Baxter walked to Megan and stopped, looked at the bundle in her arms, lowered his enormous head and sniffed. Once, twice, slowly. Then he raised his head and looked at Tom. And Tom would describe it later as the moment a 183-pound dog decided he had a new job. Finn didn't rush. He approached from the side, sniffed once, and then walked directly to the front door and lay down in front of it, facing outward, like he had decided his position in this new arrangement was obvious and required no further discussion. Tom looked at Megan. Megan looked at Tom. Nobody said anything. The first 3 weeks were loud and exhausting and relentless. Nora needed feeding every 2 hours. Tom and Megan moved through the house like people operating on the wrong side of a time zone. And through all of it, Baxter and Finn remained the most stable thing in the building. Baxter stationed himself outside the nursery door every night, not inside, too large, wrong geometry, but directly in front of it, so that anyone walking down the hallway would have to step around 183 pounds of dog. Megan stopped finding this strange after the second night. By the third, she found it comforting. Finn had his own routine. Each morning at 5:55 a.m., he would walk to the nursery, push the door open with his nose, and stand at the edge of the room, not approaching, just present, just checking. And Nora, somehow, always turned toward him.
Megan started sleeping better. She suspected it had something to do with knowing that 2 sets of ears, far more sensitive than hers, were already on duty. We put everything into these stories. If you felt something just now, show it. Hit subscribe. You belong here. On the evening Nora turned 6 weeks old, Megan drove to the pharmacy alone for the first time since the birth. She sat in the parking lot afterward, windows fogging in the cold, thinking about how different everything would have felt without Baxter and Finn, steady and enormous and completely unbothered by all of it. When she walked in, Baxter was waiting at the door. He had the television remote in his mouth. He set it at her feet, looked at her face for a moment, and walked back to his spot by the couch. Megan stood in the hallway holding a pharmacy bag and a television remote, not sure whether to laugh or cry. She did both. Then came the night of November 9th. Nora was 3 months old. The day had been unremarkable. By 10 p.m., the house was quiet. Tom had fallen asleep on the couch. Megan had gone to bed early. At 11:43 p.m., Finn started barking. Not his usual sound. Sharp, high, relentless, the kind of bark that doesn't stop and isn't meant to. Megan was out of bed and in the hallway before she was fully conscious. She found Finn at the nursery window, barking hard. Baxter was beside him, still and silent, hackles raised along his back. The motion light in the side yard had triggered. Through the glass, a shape moving along the fence line. Tom called the police at 11:46 p.m. Officers arrived 8 minutes later. A man was found 3 houses down attempting to enter through a back window. 2 properties on the street had been targeted that same evening. A third reported a broken gate latch. Megan and Tom's house was untouched. Because at 11:43 p.m., a 177-pound Saint Bernard had decided nothing was getting through that window, and a 183-pound Saint Bernard had positioned himself between the nursery and the rest of the world and was not moving. Today, Nora is 8 months old. She has discovered that Baxter's fur is excellent for pulling herself upright, and Baxter has discovered this is simply part of the arrangement now. Finn walks slowly enough through the living room that Nora can follow him, both hands reaching, laughing every time she almost catches his tail. Megan's mother visited last month. She sat on the floor between Baxter and Finn. There was nowhere else to sit. And at some point in the afternoon, Baxter put his head in her lap. She didn't say anything, but when she left, she hugged Megan for a long time at the door. Some things don't need words. Some things just need time and patience, and 360 pounds of dog who already knew the answer before anyone thought to ask the question. They have senses we lost a long time ago. That is their world. Respect it. Trust them. And if you're thinking about a large breed, learn them first. Be patient. The ones the world calls too much are often exactly what you need. Would you have kept 2 180-pound Saint Bernards when the baby arrived? Or would you have listened to everyone else? Tell me in the comments.